Hi, I'm Wayne Tuttle, and welcome to Chasing Legends. Welcome back to Chasing Legends. I'm Wayne Tuttle. I'll be your host this week. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, leave a comment if you want to leave a comment. Pick up the t-shirts Dutch Hunter Rendezvous, Legend of the Superstition Mountains, black, gray, long sleeve, short sleeve. And just in particular, keep up to date with us. Dutch Hunter Rendezvous page as the rendezvous comes closer. That is actually the information we'll be sharing with you today. The rendezvous began back in 2005. So, and it actually there was a forum, Lost Dutchman Mine forum, and a number of people were involved in it, and we all talked and kind of carried on. And then someone suggested we should meet up. I think it had something to do with some markings down by the Twin Buttes or something, and Bob Ward's Ripples of Lost Echoes. And they were talking, and I think someone thought they knew where they were, or they wanted to see if they could replicate the photo. And so it was decided who wants to go down. And about 24 people thought, well, okay, let's go out there and meet up and kind of set up and camp out for a few days. Now, much like anything in social media, there's a lot of tempers and arguments and stuff going to the forums. So everybody was kind of curious how this would work. So only about a dozen, maybe just over a dozen people showed up, because I think everybody was a little bit hesitant of like, people are going to get in there and start, problems with everybody else. And actually it went very, very well. Everybody had a great time. They went out. I don't think they really accomplished anything during that trip, but everybody had such a good time that once it wrapped up, they all said, hey, let's do this thing again. And one of the people kind of in the lead on this a lot was Joe Roboto. Joe had he had his RV, and him and his wife Carolyn would make sure everybody had something to eat and stuff, and they had a really good time. So idea is, let's do it again next year. And when it came to that, where would we set it up? And there was talk about different places, a location we could search again. And that's when Greg Davis mentioned to Randy Wright and myself, well, the Dons had just ended the trek, the Dons trek at the Dons camp. And there wasn't really anything other than Discovery Camp happening out there. So it might be a good idea to move the rendezvous, if it looked like it was something that was going to be existing and continue, to move that into a slot in the fall. So we talked about it, went to Joe, talked to him about it, a couple other people, and it seemed like a great idea because it was a permanent campsite, it had restrooms and all this, but it was in the wilderness. So it was a very unique place, but we thought that'll fit the bill. And so the second rendezvous we set to kind of be there, and it was basically based around closest we could get to Jacob Waltz's death date in October. So the Dons camp was built in the 1930s by what was originally known as the Triangle Club. Became known as the Dons of Arizona, the Dons Club. They've been around all that time. And they began the trek, there was an event, and once you're there, you'll see there's a lot of places where they had jewelers and offered, perhaps fry bread and different types of things. And they had classes and courses and lectures, and then they had in the amphitheater Indian dancers and various things. And the big night was they had the big firefall. They had the Jacob Waltz story as it was told, and then like fireworks and the firefall dumping down. And it was a really big deal. Thousands of people would gather. It was a pretty hot ticket item. They'd also do a short and long trek up into the mountains with the Dons, and the Dons all wear the Spanish garb and the hats. And it was about promoting history of the Southwest and the American Southwest. So it was a very kind of a cool thing. I think it was kind of somewhat like the Renaissance Festival. And that, unfortunately, when it came along and put itself there along the highway, because of the same time at the time of the year, it pulled all the people out. The people were more likely to go to the kind of kitschy Renaissance Festival kind of thing rather than the older Dons thing. So the Dons started losing that, and then there were problems with the restriction. Once they lost the firefall, that was kind of like the nail in the coffin on it. And while it lasted a few more years, definitely with less Dons in the group and not as big of an event, and then the Renaissance, they finally shut it down. So that was kind of the whole end of the whole event there, and then we kind of stepped in, and I'm not saying we as, because at that point I really had no real involvement other than being a participant and attendee. So we did the second year. Joe Roboto was there. Joe set up his RV stuff and cooked it, and he would, you know, make sure everybody had something. He made, I think it was Saturday nights, his mom's stew, which was really good, and had garlic bread. And it was a pretty good event. But what I remembered, and Randy and I commented, was everyone camped in their own camps. So Joe had a number of people associated with him. There was a number of different groups, so I would say there was 4 or 5 camps, and people gathered at each one. So there was a good attendance, but the 50, 60, 70 people that showed up were all kind of staying off into different groups. Now, Joe had the bigger group in his camp in the fire there, but it was all kind of isolated out. And Jack Sanfelice had come out with When Silver's King, and Jack wanted to go and talk and promote his book. So he brought some of his books, and Jack would go down and he'd start talking to a group. And then Randy and I were just floating about, saying hi to everybody, sitting around talking. And when it get too crowded or too loud or too much going on, we just kind of head over to another group, and we just kind of moved ourselves around. It was always, you know, there was always an offer. Every time you got to another camp, it was like, hey, you want a beer? And so we just kind of moved along, but Jack would come along, and we suddenly realized poor Jack was just getting run into the ground. So we kind of observed all this, realized there wasn't a ton to do. People kind of complained a little because they felt like it was just kind of, particularly, it was like, okay, you know, there's no real gathering in a sense. We're just kind of loosely all over the place. But the peace was standing, and everything was kind of working out. But there was a little bit of rivalry between groups and stuff, and we thought that was a shame. And, you know, there was another forum coming up and out, and we thought, God, this just seems... So Randy and I sat back, we're talking, well, what could you do to do this better? So we thought we'd put a little feedback input in. And we didn't realize what was coming next. We were just trying to be helpful, figure, you know, hey, we're out here, we got the time, we're going to attend. So then next thing I know is we met at Greg Davis's, and there was kind of, I know Kevin Noonamaker was there, Craig Roberts, I think Peter Esposito might have been there, Greg Davis was there, I don't know if Roger Newkirk was there, and there was a couple other people, myself and Randy Wright showed up, and we were kind of all just sitting around, and I know we were just talking about things in general, and I think it was Kevin Noonamaker who's no longer with us, but Kevin brought up something about, hey, what do you guys think about this idea? And Kevin kind of proposed the idea is, everybody gets along with you and Randy. You guys seem to kind of in and out of everybody's camps and sit around and talk with everybody, and you hike with pretty much everyone. So nobody has a bone to pick with you guys. You guys are easy to get along with stuff. What do you guys think about you guys kind of like, we do this, and let's keep the name Dutch Hunter Rendezvous, and let's kind of keep this thing kind of moving forward. And Randy and I kind of like the idea, and they all kind of put their input on certain things. They talked about even changing the name, but me and Randy, once we got kind of aside, kind of thought about it, thought we got 2 years in the books, why change the name? The name came about accidental too. There were some other stupid names for it, like anything. But we kind of like the idea of Dutch Hunter Rendezvous, and doing it for a 3rd year. And we thought we should, you know, we talked to Greg and said, hey, are we going to be able to keep it permanently in the Don's camp in late October, early November? And he said, yeah, there's no problem. We should be able to always hold that space. So we thought, okay, let's put together some idea. And I'll never forget when we sat down and decided to work out the rules, because we decided, well, we have to have some sort of framework of how we're going to do this. So Randy and I had a long discussion, and the rule 1 was, leave your baggage at the gate. No matter what's bothering you, whatever you're doing on the forum, anything argument, anything you're doing, just leave it at the gate. Come in, and the idea is just for everybody to just enjoy their time. If you don't like what someone's saying, get up, go to the bathroom, get up and walk, go sit down over there. But it's not you know, we can discuss things, we can have difference of opinions, but let's not be argumentative or cause any problems with one another. Rule 2 was have fun. Everybody should come in there with the idea of having fun, sharing stories, talking, not trying to come in and be a butthead and be disruptive of things, because that had happened too with several people, and we thought that wasn't going to happen anymore. Anyone wanted to come in with that sort of thing, we'll just walk you out the gate, because you don't need to be there. It's private property, and it's the Don's property, so we should be able to just kind of maintain that and Let's not ever have an issue where we have to call the police or so because someone's just acting up or being a major problem. Rule 3 was there are no other rules. And I think rule 4 was, yeah, have fun. So that was basically we come up because we wanted to keep it as organic as possible, that people weren't coming in and out of there and kind of having a preconceived notion. The other idea was important as remembering Jack Sanfelice out of breath, running up the hill, running down the hill, as we thought, we need to do something and bring in some guest speakers or something. Unlike today, where the guest speakers speak on Saturday night, the original guest speaker night was Friday night. So the guest speakers would be out Friday night, and then Saturday night was like an open mic night where we met again. So Randy and I said, everybody meets in the Ramada Friday night at dusk after we finish up with dinner, and then we're going to have someone get up there and talk. And the first year we had Jack Sanfelice, and we had the Apache Junction company of the Arizona Rangers, which are kind of a historical, like the Texas Rangers type thing. And we had them come out and talk, and I think Greg even gave a little talk about the Dawns. And we did that, and it really went down really well. There was no speakers. We just had the campfire glow. There was no lanterns. It was very, very primitive in the wildest way. But it really went down well because everybody came up to listen. And then Saturday night, I do know, I'm pretty sure Jim Wilson spoke. He had written Crack the Golden Egg or Cracking the Golden Egg. And then I think Bob Corbin talked at length about Crazy Jake, Robert Jacob Simpson, and his conviction and stuff. So they kind of did the open mic night with a number of other people getting in and talking and stuff. But it was very interesting, kind of how they made Ramada, and that third one kind of solidified things. Now, something we had early on was coffee cups. We had these coffee cups. This is the third rendezvous. This was the second rendezvous. And we started those, and actually Joe Roboto started those. He's had shirts, and then he had coffee cups. And the idea is, not trying to make any money on them, pretty much just at cost, just kind of do a deal with them and round the price off. So if we made $1 or $2, it was just about the effort we were going through to get all this stuff and cover any damages or losses we had. So Joe did it the first 2 years, the first and second one. I don't know if he did shirts the first year. I know he did shirts the second year. Got one of those, and then I got a coffee cup. But he always thought there should be something commemorative. And we did that for, I think, probably the second, third, fourth, maybe the fifth. But the problem started to become is Randy would go out, and that was his designated area. Randy does the coffee cups, and I would handle most of the other features and stuff. Well, the problem is Randy would order the coffee cups, and then he would get them down, and people would no-show, or people say they want them mailed, and they would say, well, I don't want to travel back with it, and then he'd ship them, and then they'd say it was damaged and send it back, and then want another one, and Randy, at one rendezvous, I can't remember which one, probably about 7th, 8th, 9th rendezvous, Randy brought all these boxes of coffee cups because he had all these leftovers. And he literally was trying to give them away at that point. And that was even becoming difficult. And then people would be like, well, this one has a chip. Well, it's free. What do you care? And he got so frustrated with that, with the people with the coffee cups and all the problems. He's like, I'm not here to market merchandise. It was just to do something for the event. So everybody always had these great ideas on t-shirts and this and hats and stuff. And we kind of looked at it as like, well, the difficulty is we got to pay for the inventory. We're not charging an entrance fee. We're not getting paid. There was donations towards food and things that happened there. But really the first few rendezvous and stuff, even with the raffle, the money was literally going right back into the rendezvous and for any materials, everything we did. So, or else I also believe we made donations to the Don's Club, and other groups would get the raffle money. So Randy and I saw we were going out of pocket sometimes $100, $200, $300, and there was nothing coming back. We got absolutely, we were going in the hole each rendezvous, which kind of sucked because unlike, it wasn't we were giving out anything or awards or anything specific. We were just trying to get this struggling thing on its way. So it became very difficult. And I know Randy was pretty incensed, and I told him to stop the coffee cups. And it was funny because for a couple of years people kept saying, I think even, I think it was Dave Leach. No, it was Bill Fincham, I think, came up with a coffee cup, I believe. And he came out with one year and brought one out, and I got one of those on the shelf. But we kind of just decided a lot of that stuff is like, we're not here to make a profit, we're not here to market anything, we're here just to have a good time, which was the main aim and goal of the rendezvous. The main aim and goal of the rendezvous was to get people out, families out, have the historians and the authors and the Dutch hunters get together, talk about various stories. Some people give lectures and all that, and we had a lot of great stuff. Jack Sanfelice probably has spoken the most, probably seconded by Thomas Glover, both noted authors. Thomas Glover wrote the Twice Told Tales book and the Golden Dream, Holmes manuscript. Jack's written quite a few books, the Lost El Dorado of Jacob Waltz, When Silver Was King, among others, Superstition Cowboys. So they've probably come up and always stepped up and spoke the most. We've also had Bob Schuess, Ron Feldman, Rick Gwynn, Robert Kesselring. I know Terry Carter, who has his own channel on stuff. Terry Carter got up one year and spoke. Mike McChesney spoke one year. I spoke. And I know there's people I'm leaving out that were, had some great stuff that they put out there. But like I said, it was now 1 year finally. After I don't know how long, we decided to change things up because everyone was off Saturday. We started doing the guest speakers on Saturdays, and then Friday was just kind of a welcome in, just kind of round table chat. Everybody gather around the fires and kind of settle in and get comfortable. So that was a change probably around the 5th, 6th, 7th rendezvous. Everybody asked us, and Randy and I said, that sounds cool, we get it. Saturday's easier to come in on than Friday for everybody. And so we made that adjustment, which was one of the few adjustments we ever made from the original that we did different. One of the other basic changes is Joe Roboto, his health, and I think it was a bit of a decline. He wasn't able to attend all the time, and Randy wanted to make his, he had a stew he made. And he made his stew, and then I started having chili one night. And I think Randy was doing Saturday nights, and I was doing chili on Friday nights. And we just decided it's pretty something easy to put together. I brought in a bunch of rolls of bread, thing of cheese, and chili, and just cooked a big pot of chili. It was goulash, and Randy made his goulash. Then Randy's attendance, he wasn't able to do things, so we cut out the Friday dinners, and we made the Saturday dinners. Still some people, Sal Degadillo, when Joe Roboto would come, he'd bring some food and stuff. Other people still bring food and share it, but the idea was never to make it a thing that we feed everybody, but have the offer up for people that come in, wanted to grab something. The only change in the food for the last probably 5 or 6 years was I was asked not to put as many jalapenos in the chili because it was spicy and everybody enjoyed it. We've never had anyone sick from it or have a problem, but they said some people had issues, and there were some people that said they were allergic to jalapenos and couldn't eat it. So we kind of chilled on the jalapenos, but the chili has stayed up except for last year. Last year with COVID, I just determined people handling the food and stuff and the way we do things there, we'd probably skip it that year. And this year I'm thinking kind of the same, where we're still in that kind of little bit of a cloud. It'd probably be best just to wait for another year before we bring back the Chili Fest. So that being said, it's a pretty good idea of what the rendezvous is, and we've been out there for 16, 17, 18 years. Randy doesn't make it out as much. Greg Davis has always been there, myself, a number of people. Last year we had about 100 people, just over 100 people show up, a good crowd. It was our first year to use the amphitheater rather than use the large ramada. We realized we could space people out. It was much cooler. We set up a lighting system, and the PA we've had and we've kind of completely modernized how we do things, but it worked out really, really well. And that being said, thanks to Woody Wampler's small generator around the corner, we had a great presentation. Everybody was able to hear clearly. The mumbling, the little small talk between people didn't interrupt and get too loud because actually it dissipates into the open air. So it worked out great. I remember getting back up on the back side of the amphitheater and I could hear everything clear as a bell. So it kind of opened up. I think I might add an extra light this year for the other side to kind of light it up even better. But the acoustics are phenomenal and everything worked great. This year, we're looking at a couple guest speakers who asked to be in, and always remember there is a caveat because people pull out every year on the guest speakers. Now, we've had a lot of great people have come in, and I said Rick Gwig came in, Robert Kesselring, Brian McDonough came in 1 year and talked, Jim Wilson. A number of people always want to come in, and there will be people still after this that will say, hey, if I come down, can I have a place to speak? And yeah, there's no problem. We always try to fit people in, accommodate, let us know how much time, and we try to work things out. We prefer, and Tom Collenborn told me, if we have shorter but more guest speakers, it kind of breaks up better. We interrupt in between. We have a raffle for some books and stuff that are donated by the authors. A number of people, some people bring in some old collection stuff, and we do that stuff and some other things. But yeah, and we let everybody know about events like the Treasure Hunt of the Year Award and stuff. So it's kind of a nice thing. I think Baker Looney came in the 1 year and gave away some, I think it was the Choctaw Nation, but he had some things he brought in and his gifts. I got one that he had gifts for people for being invited to the rendezvous and so forth. So we have these little things in between, but it worked out really well. This year, tentatively, we have two very special guests. It should be quite an interesting night, having what they have to say, possibly. Last year, after Thomas Glover spoke, he said he thought he would want to speak one more time, one more year. So he tentatively said, talk to me through the year. And I did talk to him. He wasn't sure still. It depended on a number of different things, but he was talking about, he said he might still speak this fall. It'd be great. He said it'd probably be the last time he would do this. You got to figure these guys have been doing it for 15 years or so off and on, so there's only so much. But I think there was another subject matter he wanted to speak on. He's always been just absolutely just performed beautifully, very engaging. I have always liked the discussions, talks. So Thomas, who's a noted author, wanted to speak, but also the focal point of the film Lust for Gold, Racing Against Time, Robert Kesselring, wanted to come out and talk. Now, Robert's had his health issues, and we're hoping him and his team can put something together to come out and talk about the film, probably what's moving forward with them and some of what they're doing. So between the two, you have one individual with a PhD and the other who's a missile scientist, a rocket scientist. I think you really can't go wrong there. And there's another individual that I'm speaking to who's actually a geologist with a PhD, and I've been talking to him about possibly coming out and doing a short program too as well. So it might be academically, could turn out to be one of the best rendezvous ever. As far as basically, the amount of work and effort these guys have put in. I think it's always interesting too, is being able to promote the fact that everybody always thinks of us just a bunch of crazy wild guys. Well, these are very successful individuals with degrees and put a lot of time and research into their work. So it's always nice to show that and show these individuals. So that's what we have tentatively. That doesn't mean what it's going to be, because we had 1 year where the whole thing kind of fell apart, and I don't remember what it was, but one guest speaker couldn't make it. Another person kind of backed out last minute, and that'll happen with people. There's nothing wrong with it. And then we put together 5 or 6 people. I just went around an hour or two beforehand and talked and said, can you put together 5 or 10 minute story? Can you do 10 minutes? Can you do? And it was a whole bunch of people that kind of were coming out and talking about their experiences at the rendezvous and how they got into the Dutchman, and it came out to be a really great night. I know I spoke that night, Terry Carter did, Mike McChesney, and there was a number of other people. I think it was a most interesting night because it kind of was a completely different perspective and a bunch of series of shorter 10, 12, 15 minute talks. And it went down very well with everything else in there. So that's kind of what you got to kind of expect at the rendezvous. As I've always mentioned, there's no food there, there's no water there. You have to bring your own food, water. Always bring a thing of some firewood for the main ramada, and for everybody down there. Anywhere there's a designated pit, you can have a fire. Fire restrictions are, depending on what they are, is what they are. You can bring a charcoal grill or a propane grill and cook your food out there like that. You can actually go into town and then come back out the following day. I don't know this year, depending on the weather. Some years we've had tours of the Quarter Circle U Ranch. We haven't done that for a while. And other times we have short hikes somewhere. Jack Carlson was a big part of that, but Jack, during the COVID pandemic, has kind of stayed away from things a bit. That's Jack's choice and decision, and I completely wholly support that. I've talked to him on the phone. He's doing well. But because of that, with the hike thing, it's kind of cool to go out with the guy who writes the hiking guides. And some of us, I don't know if we'll do that or whatnot. We've done a series of different trips to the day site mines. We did the Quarter Circle U. We did a couple other areas. I know they went to, was it Chuck Crawford's? I don't think it was Chuck Crawford's. I think it was George Miller's mines out by past Barkley Basin. I know some people went up to the Needle Overlook, which is always a good idea. We did one down into the Barks Draw and kind of getting up towards Bluff Springs Mountain one year for some stuff. So we've had various different things, the crematory stone that I talked about in a video. So we've always had different things. Some years there is something, and it depends on the weather. We've went to Bob Ward's cabin, the Burns Ranch, and this year I have a tentative idea. We might be filming at it, something to do, and have some people out there for some assistance, but it's all dependent again on the weather and who wants to go and stuff. We will miss our good friend Rick Gwing, because it always was a blast to get Rick to come out and go out with us to these sites, because especially Burns Ranch, Ward's cabin, and some of those sites he'd spent so much time at. That being said, again, you come down Peralta Road off the 60, you're taking Peralta Road in, and then you continue through it. It'll have a split off. One road goes to the Quarter Circle U, the Peralta Road continues up the hill. Very, very easy road. Any vehicle can make its way in. When you get to the point, should be a signage there, but it'll be at the Lost Gold Mine Trail. It'll be off to your left before you hit the main park. Hit the main parking lot for Peralta Trailhead. You've went too far, come back. Lost Gold Mine Trail, you go in there. When you get down to where you see the trail kind of designated start area, you look to your right and kind of looking north, you'll see there's a little road that kind of starts to go up the hill. Take that little road, it takes you up to the gate of the Don's Camp, and you go in there. There's an upper camp flat area where you can camp if you would like. If you have horses, we haven't had any horses there, or very few over the years. We tend to up there because of the flies and everything, and stage up there. And then the amphitheater is down, kind of ways down north of that area off to the west. But when you're coming in, you'll see there's a road that goes down the hill. That road comes down the hill and back up. And when you get there, there's what's called the lower and upper camp. The upper camp has the ramadas. Please don't camp in the large ramada. That's where we kind of tend to gather most of the time during the days. It gives us shade, benches, an area to kind of gather and talk and so forth, and have little discussions. People can pick up do little lectures or talks if they like. The smaller one, usually the smaller groups will break off into there for doing interviews and stuff. There are a number of small ramadas, first come, first serve. People like to set up tents or cots in those and sleep in those in the open air. If you choose not to want to go up into that upper circle, or the roads are bad, because I haven't seen the roads and we had quite a bit of rain, you can go down to the lower camp to the left. If you go down to the lower camp, it's a lot of flat areas, great for RVs. Most of the RVs and trailers park down in those areas. I tend to sometimes do as well. So pick one of those spots and just set up camp there. One thing we do ask everybody is around 9:30, 10 o'clock, 10:30, please shut the generators down for the night. There's nothing worse. It's very, very quiet out there. Most years we had some younger people had a dance party up in the upper parking lot with lights and loud DJ music, a live DJ. Not part of us, part of a different group came in to use the camp, unaware that we were there. We should have just asked them to leave because we did have the place reserved. We didn't think they were going to be that much of a problem. They were kind of a problem. But if you have that generator, it's so quiet out there, and that buzzing and on and off of the generators coming from different parts of camp will keep people awake. Can't do anything about people snoring, sorry, but those generators can be kind of something of an annoyance, and we've kind of moved things back into early November. Last year was actually pretty cool still in October. Hopefully the weather will be really, really nice, and everything will be really quiet, and we can hear the coyotes at night and all the winds blow and everything else, so that would be particularly really nice. But that is one of the few things that we definitely want people to remember is, you know, the guys that are in the tents or in the back of a pickup or here and there, let's please kind of keep it down, especially at a certain point at night. I've even been chewed out by people for being too loud, you know, up in my camp. Oh well. So there's a nice drive-in video called Dutch Hunter Rendezvous in the Legend of the Superstition Mountains section. So you'll be able to see that. I think Frank and I, or Trevor, were driving and we filmed a lot of it. So you'll be able to see actually, and we make notes and then we give a bit of a tour of the camp. So you can go there and look for that. Dutch Hunter Rendezvous. It might have been the 3rd or 4th season there. We did the YouTube videos. And it'll kind of walk you through a lot of this. Some of it will be repetitious. I wanted to kind of put it out there so people kind of get comfortable with the idea. If you're local and you want to come on out, stop by, say hello. We've had a lot of people come out, people stop in, kind of stay to the shadows, let people in. You know, and there's been a lot of people that have populated this. We miss our friends who've spent many years camping out there and spending time with us, like Rick Gwynn and Tom Collenborn and Ron Eagle and all these people that have tended the Rendezvous over years, and they're no longer with us. Dan Hopper and his son Bob. So we're hoping that we get some fresh blood and some people. And if you've never been out there and you're kind of interested, we introduce people around. There's some people who are hesitant to talk. Nobody should be rude. I don't think there's anybody ever been really outside of that second rendezvous that there was some personality issues and we worked that out. Nobody's ever really rude or problematic or stuff. Everybody's actually been pretty good about everything and just getting along and getting through the weekend. Like I said, leave the baggage, come out, and, you know, when you leave, just understand that there's people in there going to tell lies and they're going to talk this and that, and they're going to bring in some of their wildest and crazy theories, and they should understand eye rolling is allowed. And they come up and I talk to everybody and, you know, try to kind of sit back and tell a few stories. Chasing Legends is starting to drain it out of me, but there's always a few more stories to tell, and there's always a few more stories to share, and there's always something fresh I've never heard before. So I look forward to seeing everybody out at the Rendezvous and taking part and taking place with us November 5th, 6th, and 7th this year in 2021. So we're still on, we're still there. Come on out and see us. Catch me, Frank. Woody will be there. You know, Bob Shoes, I'm sure, will be out. The Feldmans will be out. So it's a really good time. Come see everybody and gather around and catch up on some great stories. So that being said and done, I wanted to do that sort of informational thing because as it gets closer to the Rendezvous, if I get too late, then it's too late to kind of throw out the information. So I wanted to get this out there before we get back in our storytelling time as we kind of start to close in on number 200, which is kind of cool. Didn't ever think I would keep doing this over the years, to do this, going from the lives to this and then just continuing on, and who knows after 200 what we do or where we take this thing. But that being all said and done, thank you very much. Remember to go to lustforgold.com, raceagainsttime.com, and sign up for that sweepstakes for that 4 days, 3 nights in the Superstition Mountains. They got that thing still going. Pick up a DVD or whatnot. History Channel is still releasing episodes of our stuff. If you go, don't be disappointed. It's the old episodes, but they're re-releasing them for whatever reason we don't know. I tried to contact a couple people and no one understands quite in the marketing why they're doing it. I don't know. We can't hold our breaths. We'll just keep moving forward with whatever we're doing. I hope to see everybody at the Rendezvous. I hope everybody's well and healthy. Special shout out to our good friend Dave Chase, who's kind of fighting things right now and all. Dave, hang in there, Chief, man. We're all pulling for you, and we hope to see you. I hope to see you definitely at the Rendezvous. Recover well. We'll see you at the Rendezvous, my brother. Until then, this is Wayne Tuttle. You're not. And this was Chasing Legends. Take care and have a good one. See you next time.